Ahoy hoy and welcome to the channel. Today I'm standing on the side of Mount Hamilton Road on the outskirts of San Jose, California. Today we're going to take a drive up to Lick Observatory on the top of Mount Hamilton. As we begin our drive to the summit, let's go through some history. Mount Hamilton is located in California's Diablo Range, which runs through the central portion of the state, rising to 4,265 feet. Mount Hamilton overlooks the Santa Clara Valley and is home to the Lick Observatory. The subject of today's video: the mountain slopes are home to many oak trees, golden eagles, owls, bobcats, and mountain lions. From the summit, you can see iconic Bay Area spots such as Mount Tam, San Francisco, the Santa Cruz Mountains, and Monterey Bay, and even Yosemite National Park on a clear day. Snow is common on Mount Hamilton in the winter months, and in the summer, due to thermal layer inversions, it can be warmer at the summit than in San Jose at the valley floor. Named in 1861 after Reverend Laurentine Hamilton, who, while on California's first geological survey with Josiah D. Whitney, of whom California's tallest mountain is named after, he humorously ran ahead and staked the summit. The peak was originally called Sierra de Santa Isabel. The name Mount Hamilton was adopted by the geologists, who didn't know it had a previous name. Now for some background on Mr. James Lick himself. He was born in 1796 in Stumptown, Pennsylvania. His grandfather fought in the Revolutionary War under George Washington, and his father served in the Civil War. As the son of a carpenter, he began learning the trade early on. In his early 20s, he met a woman named Barbara, who would become the mother of Lick's only child, John Henry Lick. But they never married. Lick then moved to Baltimore to master piano making, which he quickly succeeded, opening his own shop in New York City in 1821. He relocated to Argentina after discovering his pianos were being exported to South America. Lick's time in Buenos Aires was tough due to his lack of Spanish and the country's unstable politics at the time. Despite these challenges, his business flourished, and in 1825 he left Argentina for a European tour. But his return trip took a turn when Portuguese forces captured his ship. After a daring escape, Lick walked back to Buenos Aires. In 1832, he went back to Stumptown, but was unable to reunite with Barbara and their son. He then relocated to Valparaiso, Chile, before moving his business to Lima, Peru. By 1846, Lick had returned to North America, then aiming to settle in California. However, delays from a backlog of piano orders and the ongoing Mexican-American War kept him occupied for 18 months as he finished the work himself. January 1848, Lick arrived in San Francisco with his tools, $30,000 in gold, and 600 pounds of chocolate given to him by his neighbor in Peru. The chocolate quickly sold out, prompting him to write back to his neighbor, named Domingo Ghirardelli, to move to San Francisco, where he would later end up starting the famous Ghirardelli Chocolate Company. With the gold rush igniting a housing boom, Lick invested heavily in real estate, expanding his holdings in San Francisco and farmland in San Jose. He also built the renowned Lick House Hotel, known for its luxury and grandeur, but was sadly destroyed in the 1906 earthquake. Returning to his San Jose orchards, Lick suffered a stroke in 1874. By this time, he was the richest man in California, owning vast estates including land around Lake Tahoe and all of Santa Catalina Island. Initially planning grand monuments to himself, including a pyramid larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza to be built in downtown San Francisco, Lick was persuaded by George Davison to dedicate the largest part of his fortune to building a groundbreaking mountaintop observatory, which would feature the largest telescope of its time. As we reach the summit, we are greeted with great views of the South Bay, the Santa Cruz Mountains, and as we pan to our left, the main building hall of Lick Observatory. The large dome on the right is the main Lick refractor dome, and the smaller dome on the left is the smaller North Telescope. As we walk up to a plaque right here, describing some of the history of this North Dome. Feel free to pause the video to have a chance to read the information. As we continue around towards the back of the observatory hall,
we can see more of the telescope domes located along the mountaintop ridge, as well as the original post office attached to the main building. This post office is still in service for the small number of residents who live on the mountaintop year-round, and for the many researchers who come up to use the University of California's scientific instruments and facilities. As we continue our walk around the back of the observatory, we have a view of the large central Shane dome built in the 50s, and the smaller dome to the right of it was the automatic planet finder. Here we also have the original dormitory quarters. We are now on the backside of the Great Lick Refractor Dome. As we continue our walk around, we are approaching a plaque that tells some history of the construction and final movement of James Lick's body to the tomb underneath the telescope. Back in front of the main building, we have some photos here that show us some of the locations we could be able to see from this viewpoint. Unfortunately, the day I filmed, it was pretty hazy. Now, let's head inside the main building and take a look at some of the exhibits. As we first walk inside the main building, to our left we have a plaque of James Keeler, who was the director of Lick Observatory for 2 years. And as we move to our right, we have a plaque memorializing Mr. James Lick. As we pan across the entrance to our right, we have another plaque dedicated to Reverend Laurentine Hamilton. We round the corner into the main building hall. Let's go into some history on how James Lick became interested in astronomy, which was around 1860, when he met George Madeira, the founder of California's very first observatory. He was a paid lecturer, taking his telescope around the state. After one such lecture in San Jose, which was attended by James Lick, he and Lick spent a few nights observing the skies at Lick's estate. At one point, Madeira told Lick, "If I had your wealth, Mr. Lick, I would build the world's largest telescope on top of that mountain," pointing out a spot where the present observatory sits. Again in 1875, a man named Thomas Fraser mentioned to Lick to build an observatory on Mount Hamilton. Lick finally agreed, provided that Santa Clara County construct a top-quality road. That road was completed in the fall of 1876. Over here, we can peer into the main dome containing the Great Lick Refracting Telescope. Currently, there is a tour going on, but we will return back later. As we continue past more informational exhibits, I'll go through some more history of the building itself. The observatory was the first permanently occupied mountaintop observatory in the world. Its main instrument, the Great Lick Refractor, was the largest telescope of its kind at the time it was built, and it still remains the third largest refracting telescope in the world. Some of the observatory's major achievements are most notably the discovery of 4 additional moons of Jupiter, and work by astronomer and observatory director W. W. Campbell, who conducted extensive studies on binary stars. These studies were instrumental in expanding our understanding of stellar dynamics. The observatory also proved vital with its participation in search for new planetary bodies and leading to the discovery of several asteroids and comets. The observatory also became a hub for stereoscopic studies, helping to advance our knowledge of the chemical composition of stars. Today, the main building of Lick Observatory has mostly been dedicated towards history and preservation, as well as public outreach. But the other 8 telescopes and various other scientific equipment located at the summit is still used for scientific purposes and research. By now, I'm sure everyone's sick of hearing me talk, so I will fade off to the background and give you guys a chance to look at some of the rest of the exhibits in the remainder of this section of the hallway. As we round this back corner, we have a section on their barograph dedicated to observing changes in atmospheric pressures. And just across the hall, we have the observatory's seismograph station, which has some printouts of some local notable earthquakes. As I pan down to the computer screen here that shows a live reading of nearby earthquakes, there is a section highlighted in red as there was a small magnitude earthquake as I was making my drive up to the observatory. Off to the side, we have a printout of the seismograph from the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake, which occurred just after 5 p.m. on October 17th. And notably interrupted Game 3 of the World Series between, of all teams, the San Francisco Giants and Oakland A's. The earthquake cost 57 people their lives. Off in this side room, we have some samples of meteorites as well as collectible items made to honor Mount Hamilton and its Lick Observatory. We also have a section with some photographs during construction and notable pictures taken through the telescope itself. As we pan to our right, we also have a section on the advancements of eyepieces and the capturing of information taken through the telescope, such as this early photograph taken on a plate of glass. Over here we also have a few samples and the history and advancements of electronic image sensors, as well as some photographs of the Lick Observatory in some storms and with snow. Here we have a large panorama showing the eastern section of the Diablo Range, as well as facing towards the Sierra Nevada hills. As I pan back up here, you can see Half Dome in Yosemite National Park. Here is a photo from inside the main Great Lick Refractor Dome. The telescope is about 57 feet long and weighs 14,000 pounds. But due to counterweights, one astronomer can stand on these stairs to look through the telescope and is able to move it a few inches in each direction just by hand. For more major adjustments, there is a ship-style helm towards the top, which can make large corrections and spin the telescope, as well as the dome. The wood floor you see at the bottom can also be lifted up to 16 feet to the railings along the side of the dome walls to allow for easier viewing when that telescope is at a shallow angle. As previously mentioned, James Lick is buried underneath the telescope in the main building, with a plaque showing where he rests, forever part of a universe he and so many seek to understand. His will also requests that fresh flowers always be kept on his grave. Thank you for watching. Now I somehow managed to break the audio on my outro video clip here, so I will do the outro as a voiceover with this absolutely terrifying freeze frame. This is the first video I have made for this channel. If you like what you see, please leave a comment and leave suggestions on what I could do better and what kind of videos you would like to see in the future. Thank you.